It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Okay, friends, if after making all the recipes on the show today, from the custard pear crumble to the blueberry and yogurt health muffins, you suffer from being bloated or discomfort, then you may suffer from what is called IBS. Well, stay tuned because Zoe is about to chat to Lauren more about how to maintain a healthy digestive system.
Most of us have heard of IBS or irritable bowel syndrome, but many of us don't really know what it is or how to avoid it. Now, the one thing that I've heard is that you can manage the symptoms of IBS through your diet, and depending on the IBS symptoms, including fiber in your daily meals is a very popular solution. Jungle Oat Bran is a versatile product which you can add to your meals, and because it's high in energy and soluble fiber, it can maintain and aid the digestive system and keep you regular. And joining us in studio with expert advice and some valuable nutritional insight is registered dietitian Lauren Moore. Welcome back, Lauren.
Thank you so much.
You know what, we are talking about IBS this morning, and I think it's only important that we first just tackle exactly what it is.
So IBS is a lifelong syndrome. It stands for Irritable Bowel Syndrome. So it's a chronic condition, and it mostly affects the large intestine, which is the colon. And common symptoms include things like digestive issues, abdominal discomfort, constipation, diarrhea, that type of thing. So it's a very frustrating syndrome because it presents so differently in different people, and it reacts so differently to different triggers. So it can be very frustrating to diagnose and also to manage.
Okay, well, you say it's very difficult to diagnose, but what are some of the first signs or symptoms to look out for?
Like I said, it can be so differently expressed in different people. So common things would be some people have diarrhea, some people have constipation, some people have both. And other things like cramping, bloating, that type of thing. And also trying to look at the relationship between how you're feeling from a stress perspective and how that's impacting on your gut. So there's a big relationship between stress and manifestations in your gut. So if you're noticing that those symptoms are popping up when you're really having a bad week at work, or if you're feeling very anxious, then that's when you would start to think, maybe this is IBS and maybe I should get it checked out.
Okay, I've met so many people that have mentioned, they've got symptoms of IBS or they suffer from IBS, but what exactly causes it?
We don't actually know, to be honest, which even adds even more to the frustration. So some people think it might be hormonal because a lot of women experience IBS. Some people think it might be due to infection and inflammation in the gut. The most common theory, and I think the most well-supported theory, is something called the brain-gut axis.
Okay.
And that's basically where research has found that our brain and our guts are constantly communicating. So there's this direct line of communication between the brain and the gut, and that's where you find this relationship between stress and actually stress manifesting in the gut. And it's also got to do with your gut microbiome, and that's basically just the balance of your good and your bad bacteria. So they find that people who have a poor balance of good and bad bacteria in your gut often have more reactions to those emotions in their gut.
Now, a lot of people always say, add fiber to your diet. What are some of the things you should avoid when you suffer from IBS?
I think the most important thing is to figure out what your body doesn't tolerate as someone who lives with IBS. So don't go and Google and pick out all the things that people say is triggering their IBS, because you might find that it's only a fraction of those that actually affects you, and that leads to a very unbalanced diet. So you want to be very mindful of what's actually triggering yours. Maybe you want to write it down for a few days and see when you're getting symptoms according to what you're eating. Obviously, the common ones that we want to exclude anyway would be your refined foods and your high sugar, high fat type of foods anyway. So those are the ones you want to avoid by default.
Okay, now that you've tackled what to avoid, I think it's only important that we take a look at what are some of the foods you have to include in your diet?
Yeah, and you've mentioned it before. So we want to focus on fiber, and we want to focus on optimizing your gut. And that comes down to that balance again of your good and your bad bacteria, and how we can support those good bacteria as much as possible. So you really want to focus on getting a good balance of fiber. High fiber foods would be things like whole grains and oats, nuts and seeds, beans, vegetables with the skin, that type of thing. And those are so important because they provide something called prebiotic fiber, and the prebiotics feed the probiotics, which are your healthy gut bacteria. And you can also focus on increasing your probiotic intake. So either you can take a supplement, or you can eat foods that are fermented, like kombucha, which are very high in probiotics as well.
Well, I think you, the expert to ask this. Any parting advice for anyone currently suffering with, IBS symptoms and just going forward?
Probably sounds weird coming from a dietitian, but I would say don't only focus on the food.
Okay.
Don't underestimate the impact of stress and the importance of stress management. So yes, look at your diet and what's triggering your IBS, but also focus on your lifestyle and really prioritizing your stress management, if that means taking some time to meditate or go do some yoga or just for a walk on the promenade, anything like that. But you really want to prioritize that stress management, because if you're feeling less stressed, there's less communication between the brain telling your gut that it needs to have all those symptoms related to the IBS.
Okay, well, Lauren, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And recent statistics show that approximately 23% of South Africans, particularly women, are affected by IBS. And with stress being a trigger, it's not surprising that this number is on the increase. Now, the good news is that if you do have IBS, managing the symptoms successfully is a lot more achievable with the correct nutrition and with registered dietitians like Lauren around to guide you with expert dietary advice.
South Africa's original oat champion now has a range of nutritious, delicious muesli. New Jungle Muesli, available in an exciting variety of flavors.